Okay. So, side stitch. Side stitches, which I think we're like going to be borderline like our first griping episode of a side stitch this time, because we're talking of the transition of turn-based RPG to action-based RPG.
Yeah, we should probably just label it. You know, it really grinds my gears, like on Family Guy. It grinds my gears.
Action-based RPGs.
They move too quick. My reflexes aren't as good. Leave that stuff for the kids.
Yeah. You see these digits? This is wearing down. I'm running out of cartilage from your bullshit game.
It's kind of funny that we touch base on this a little bit in our South Park video game side stitch. Ironically enough, like it's not that the South Park RPGs changed a ton, but they changed just enough to be a different experience to where it might be polarizing to people. And the turn-based RPG to the action-based RPG is definitely a tough change. I mean, it just is. If you're a purist and you basically depend on someone standing still while you choose your move, action-based just isn't for you.
Yeah, I mean, I really love just having this sweet MIDI 5 file just blaring in the background as my 5 character party people are just shuffling back and forth with their weapons like it's a weird little dance. I need that, because if that's not going to be able to cut off the tension of this final battle, like the stress is just going to go through the roof. Can't handle it.
It's kind of funny that you even bring up like the little dance that they do. I mean, that has to go kind of touch on the changes to audio music during these fight scenes and things like that as well. Like, you're not going to be getting your really rhythmic back and forth like do do do, like fighting music.
Yeah,
because it doesn't fit anymore. So now you're seeing something more dynamic to match that level of combat. So we're kind of losing a little bit. It's kind of turning into like an old school, even melody.
Yeah, I mean, we're even losing, like, going from like Route 1 to like a wild Pidgey has appeared style that was really nice. Granted, like there was no dancing involved in Pokemon, but still, like, there was a clear change of pace of you're hanging out, minding your own business, and suddenly a Pokemon just wants to ruin your day. Versus you and your gang driving around in your off-brand, distinctive enough not to get sued Rolls Royce, and then suddenly there's a douchebag the size of a mountain deciding to ruin your day.
Or giant helicopter
Giant
full of bad guys.
Why are there so many? This helicopter isn't even that big. Why are there 20 people?
Where the hell did you guys even come from?
Yeah, what bullshit clown car in the sky are you flying around up there?
just waiting, always watching. With the frickin' NSA RPGs over here.
Oh man.
Well, yeah. I think for me, like, obviously for a lot of people, even just starting off playing RPGs is a purely turn-based experience. I mean, I just love the fact that you do have a little bit of time to think. If you want to strategize, you have a chance to do so. There's no bold gambits happening. Well, there might be, depending on your style of play. But I mean, I really do appreciate that much more, because I mean, is it really even an RPG at that point if you're just hacking and slashing?
Right.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel that way. You feel like you've gone. I mean, granted, like dungeon crawlers are like that's the Western-based RPG, and I don't know if that was like kind of the idea to make some sort of marriage between Eastern RPGs and Western RPGs, and you get these action-based combat ones. But I it just rubs me the wrong way in this way, where it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I think there's just something really, really nostalgic and maybe even a little, I don't know, it's like relaxing to be able to sit back on your couch and explore like a world or a map or something like that. And then when you do kind of run into combat, I mean, it's nice to just be able to go through, take a look at things, and strategize more, other than kind of what we just touched on versus like just button mashing moves.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, you get a few rounds in, you see the different ways the boss is going to attack. Inevitably, after like 5 rounds, and you kind of get a little comfortable. Suddenly, the boss heals himself. And you're like, "Fucking hell, was not ready for that." But now I can try and counter that and figure out what I'm going to do next. Whereas action based, it's all just happening so fast and it's a blur. You
Yeah.
you kill the boss, and like, what the hell just happened?
But I feel like either one of them, though, could quickly turn back into the "this isn't even my final form."
Right.
So at least they keep that part,
They
going
do.
on.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering because you just mentioned about the balance of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a mobile game called Dawn of Isles. Have you guys ever played that before? Heard about it?
No.
No, I'm not a huge mobile gamer. So basically, my knowledge of things outside of Pokemon Go and Two Dots is basically whatever the YouTubers I watch are being paid to promote. So
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
speaking of which, we're not being paid to promote this, as we love to say, not a sponsor. Um, so, so Dawn of Isles is actually one of those mobile-based RPGs that manages to actually. I mean, it doesn't actually have turn-based combat. Okay, so don't get me wrong. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still a game where like you have to plan out battles. Like you can still hack and slash all day long. There's even like an automated like fighting button where you just press the button and you can go kill automatically until you run out of health.
Ooh.
But there still is strategy involved to this type of game though, because depending on what kind of enemy you're fighting, there's different like, I mean, we're not going to say it's like Pokemon rules where there's like different elemental damages that hurt things more than others, but still that is kind of true. Sully agrees.
He does. Big fan.
So, but you still have to think about the fights you're going into. Like you go into the fight, you have to think about what type of creature it is, and then plan your party accordingly. So, I mean, I think that the gripe between nostalgia and strategy here, like I think the strategy is still roughly the same, right? Because if you are going into a turn-based RPG and you get your ass handed to you, which happens all the time,
Yeah.
you respec, maybe change your party members out, and then approach the fight, with that new tactic in mind. So I get what you're saying about the Final Fantasy 15s of the world, though, because they do just feel like hack and slash. And if you're like me, I mean, I prefer to maybe get down like 3 or 4 moves. Like I'm the worst fighting game person of all time. I can't memorize all the damn moves. I just want my 4. Just give me the 4. But that's kind of like how Final Fantasy 15 was for me. Like I walked into it and I'm like, yeah, I know how to teleport from like one spot to another or whatever with like your little dash move or whatever it is. And then from there, I'm just mashing buttons. Like it's no longer an RPG. I'm sorry.
Right. No, I think so. And I don't know. I just think it's very interesting too, because there are other RPGs out there. Like right away, I think of like Dragon Age, which kind of always had that 3D combat system, but it was kind of watered down a little bit more with how you can pretty much only equip like a certain. You kind of have to pick and choose what you want to do and what moves you want to have, and those are on your D-pad, so they're pretty easily accessible. I never minded that 3D kind of combat style in a game like that because I just felt like it was very fluid, and doing everything was still watered down enough where you didn't have to just mash buttons because it was very easy to know exactly what you were doing. Whereas I think when other franchises are then taking their model that everyone like you love so much, like I love this model, I love this game, I love this series, and then they start doing what other franchises are doing, and it's like, okay, this isn't necessarily awful, but it's not why I played this game. And I want what I want, which is what you used to do.
Yeah, no. Well, since our last recording, I have taken up Dragon Quest 11 for our
Nice.
listeners. And what is fun about that game, though, is the fact that, if you are a traditionalist RPG person, like the three of us, you can switch between having it be a turn-based RPG versus an action-based RPG. So, and even then, I found when it's an action, you can only do action-based RPG. Also, I should clarify this because Chelsea and I do have different versions of the game.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have the definitive edition, which I didn't realize was a thing because I can't read or write. So I just ooh, pictures. I'll pick that up. That's Dragon Quest. And in my version of the game, you can even choose between 2D versus 3D. So initially, Nostalgia is wins completely. I'm gonna do 3D. I'm gonna do 2D. So I've got my little 2D pixelated characters running around. It's just face, eyes, and hair. You don't get mouth, nose, any of that. Just that's all you get to see. I'm this is great. This is fun. Except because they try packing in so much of the game, combat suffers because you don't get your sprites in combat. You just see non-moving villains, and that's all.
Oh, sure.
So it's kind of that kind of ruined it for me. So it was actually so different that when I sent Chelsea a picture of the game, she's like, "That's not the game I have."
That ain't it. That ain't it.
Not sure what game you have, but that's not Dragon Quest 11, Shadows of the Elusive Age. So I switched it to 3D. She's like, "Yep, that's definitely the game." And I actually started with the action-based platform as opposed to turn-based. And at least in that game, that game, I would admit, wasn't horrible on action-based. Because it was weird. I felt like I would choose my attack, my character would do the attack, and then after I did that, I could run around in a small area. I couldn't leave the battlefield. I was limited to where my character could run. But at the same time, that made it really easy to dodge other attacks because the little dudes would jump and I would just run around in a circle and they would miss me and then they wouldn't do anything again until I would try to attack. Or if they did do something again, again, this is also me the very beginning part of the game. So they just attacked so slow, I could just run a circle, Flint Tropics style.
yeah.
And just come back to him and do my next attack, and it would work great. But I'm it works, but I'm not a big fan of it. So I switched it back to just a turn-based RPG, and life's been pretty good ever since.
That would be great if in that game, when you switch back, the enemies have a little dialogue that says, "I got cat piss in my eyes." Well, Joe, you actually kind of made the point that I was going to kind of drive home to because, as we have mentioned several times on this program, we don't like to necessarily just tear down things to tear them down. Mm-mm. And with Final Fantasy 15, it's not a bad game. It's a very fun game. It is a beautiful game.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, visually stunning.
Yeah. You can practically hump the beaches you're walking on, right?
I mean, I would have gone with feel the sand between my toes, but yeah, you can do that too if that's what you do when you go to beaches. You can hump them.
I mean, Joe, the water washes up and it's like the holes aren't even there anymore. So anyway, though, here's the thing.
That will not be on a t-shirt when we make merch for this show.
No, I mean the holes for making a sandcastle. Get your heads out of the gutter, okay? Come on. Jesus, you couple of pervs over here. But so the hacking and the slashing, okay? It's not like it's a bad thing. Mm-mm. I have played many a game where you're just hacking and slashing your way to the finish line. But I don't do that in Final Fantasy. That's not why I'm there. Mm-hmm. I'm there to literally live for the experiences that we mentioned a few weeks ago, where sometimes you've got one hit point left, and the move that you choose next is the one that wins the battle decisively. That's what I live for. Mm-hmm. Can you still get that from a hacker and slasher game? Yeah, you can still hold on until the very end, but it's just not the same thing. It is not the same thing to me, and I don't know. Where are you all at on this one?
I could not agree more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like again, like these games like that, and they do well. Like so, obviously, even though like we're not a fan of them, doesn't mean like don't try them or don't play them, because again, we're not experts. We're just three people talking about video games and things we like. So again, like yeah, the game is beautiful. Like I've watched Chelsea's husband play it for quite a bit.
Mhm.
He tried getting me to play it, and I played it for a while, and I'm like, yeah, this is all right. This is me and my bros hanging around Entourage style in our rules, and a Rolls Royce
So-
over here.
Traveling K-pop band.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's exactly correct.
And like that, like we say, traveling K-pop band, it does retain like the Final Fantasy like overall look, like that
Yeah.
just over the top, ridiculous like Japanese style that is very very fun and very cool to look at. That's still there. So if you like that, the story is great, the graphics are great, and honestly, like if they would have slapped it, if they would have called it Final Fantasy Dynasty Warriors, I'd probably feel completely different about it.
Yeah.
That's how weird it is. If they just like didn't label it as just pure Final Fantasy, like I'd probably be totally fine with it.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I don't think that the game, I don't think it's a bad game. I don't think that the game shouldn't have been made. I just don't, I really don't think that they should totally do away with that old combat
Mhm.
system that has put them right where they are right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and Joe just made the point that, I mean, clearly at least one studio was able to give you both. So
Yeah, and that's
Right.
that's. I mean, if Dragon Quest can do it on the Switch, which as we know, is not like a powerhouse in terms of processing, even though we are getting a sweet new OLED screen. For those of you who don't have a Switch yet, it can now look even brighter.
Which
Does
you'll
it run
promptly
better?
turn your battery or your screensaver down to the lowest possible thing to extend the battery anyway. So
But hey, at least the good news is I think it's less expensive than the Switch when it initially came out. So
yeah.
if you don't have it, like at least you're not paying like an inflated price because it's OLED. But hey, you got it. It can be super bright if that's what you're into.
Well, and that new
Um,
white one looks tray chic also.
it-
If you
it
need to like
does.
walk around feeling super fancy.
Yeah, if you want to get all posh like the Brits say, you go
Yeah,
and get you a white Switch.
the only issue is you can't play it after Labor Day.
Well, at least it doesn't come in pink because then you can only play it on Wednesdays.
Oh my god.
Is it really an episode if we don't reference Mean Girls?
I think we have to, man. I really
A little
do.
bit,
We've somehow referenced Mean Girls without specifically saying Mean Girls easily
Several
half a
times.
dozen times. Yeah, easily half a dozen times.
It's because it's probably a masterpiece.